Twitter is out with its first quarter earnings report this morning, just days after announcing a deal to sell the platform to billionaire Elon Musk. The company took in $1.2 billion in revenue, which was slightly below expectations. It reported 61 cents earnings per share and a bump in users. So we're going to bring in Chris Teal now to talk a little bit more about this potential sale and the implications that it could have on users and free speech. Chris is a technology reporter with Morning Consult. Thanks for joining us, Chris. So we want to talk a little bit about some polling that was done as well. But let's talk about where Twitter stands right now. Twitter saw a bump in users last quarter. What are you hearing in terms of how the platform, though, might change under Elon Musk if the deal goes through? And I guess there's like two factors to this, right? There's all this whole conversation about freedom of speech and expression, all that sort of stuff. But then also, and we've talked about this week, he's taken out a pretty big loan. Twitter's got to make him some money because he's got to pay that loan back.
Yeah, I mean, thanks for having me, first of all. Based on our survey recently, the freedom of speech aspect is a very interesting one. 51% of our Republicans in our survey said they feel they cannot express themselves freely on social media. That's compared to 55% of Democrats and 43% of all adults. So there is clearly something to be said for the partisan divide on whether people feel they can express themselves freely on social media. And Elon Musk has said, he's called himself a free speech absolutist. He wants to, protect the freedom of expression and believes Twitter should do more. I think that is the most interesting development for me in terms of how the platform could look if the deal closes later this year.
So to me, that sounds like there are many groups who feel muzzled and they can't express themselves freely on social media. And your point about Elon Musk saying this is about freedom of speech is a really important one because his interpretation of what that means, I think, is what makes this so controversial for some people. Elon Musk tweeting, I think yesterday or the day before, that if you're infuriating people on the far right and the far left, then you have that's the definition of neutrality, which I would completely disagree with. What is your polling showing as far as people's opinions of Elon Musk and how that might impact what the company does?
Yeah, we track favorability, including of Elon Musk, and it's stayed at plus 16 for several years now at this point, and it's more or less unchanged. I think what that tells you is that as he's become more prominent, he's doing a lot with Tesla, with SpaceX, with the Boring Company. Obviously, he has a lot of supporters and still detractors. It's not like you've seen a massive jump in what people, if people like him. So it's going to be interesting to see how that evolves if he does take control of Twitter as he wants to.
I'm curious if, part of that has to do with they like him as a businessman. They think that, he will make Twitter a stronger business, less as a guy with, social commentary stuff.
Yeah, I mean, he's shown himself to be a strong businessman. Look at the number of Teslas that you see out on the roads now. That there's clearly having an impact, and I think there's hope that he can do the same for Twitter. The interesting thing is going to be it's not been a money-making enterprise for a while. If he takes it private as he wants to, will that mean he'll make some money off of the deal? Only time will tell.
And just in our last few seconds, put that 16% favorability rating in context. Is that a big deal? Is that people really like him, or is that more of a lukewarm, neutral number?
I'd say it's pretty good. I think what you need to look for is how it's changed, or rather not changed, over the years. And it's stayed pretty constant around the upper teens, low 20s, which, yeah, as I say, says to me he's in the public eye, but people aren't hating on him and people aren't falling in love with him completely. It's staying pretty consistent.
Interesting stuff. Chris Teal, thank you very much. We appreciate you joining us.
Thank you for having me.